Welcome back to the show. Now, the thing with emergencies and disasters that can happen to you and your family is that they happen without warning and they don't leave you much time to react.
That is why September is National Preparedness Month. The theme this year is Don't Wait, Communicate. Tucson Fire Captain Barrett Baker is here to walk us through what we should be doing now to be ready for anything that comes our way. And Barrett, when we're talking about disasters or emergencies, there's a lot of things that kind of fall underneath that category.
Yeah. I mean, you hit on some of the important parts. That when I look at my calendar on a daily basis, I cannot see that at 4 o'clock today I'm going to have an emergency.
Right.
So the nature of an emergency is it catches you off guard. So the don't wait, communicate, it's so important that we think it can happen to us. If you turn the news on a national level every single day, there's some terrible event. And hopefully those folks have taken the necessary steps that when that event happens, they're going to be okay. And they're little things. And yet at the end of the day, when you have that emergency, they turn out to be very, very big things. So just a couple of examples. We're not going to have a tornado here for the most part. We're not going to have a hurricane. But what are we going to have? We have the potential for floods, major heat events, power outages. And so we have a society that freaks out if we don't have Facebook for 4 hours. If we didn't have our power for 72 hours, would you really be able to get by, right? So a couple of the things. Have a plan with your family. If you have kids, and something bad happens, have a meeting place. Where is that meeting place? That's something that if you've never discussed it before, you might as well flip a coin and go out and look at the sun, because it's not going to happen, correct? Yeah. So power outages, if you didn't have your power, if the kids can't drive, how are they going to get to a certain spot if they can't get home? These are all things that each family kind of has to get their own plan and put it together, but there's so many assets and things out there that can help you through those things. So ready.gov is a fantastic website to go to, and they have all of the forms that you can fill out, and really what it boils down to is just we want people to think about it. Again, happens to everyone else. Is it going to happen to me? And if it happens to me, are we going to be ready? So meeting places, how are you going to get there? Have a little emergency kit ready as well, because if you don't have things for 72 hours, are you going to be ready for something like that?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that actually our family is really has our emergency kit. Everybody knows where it is, and I just want to make sure that we have the right stuff in this emergency kit. So maybe kind of give us a little bit of a list of what that should include.
Sure. Obviously, some of the basics, the food. You're going to have food for 72 hours, have water for 72 hours, and we want about a gallon per person per day. So if you have a big family, make sure that you have enough water for them. Each family is going to have their own things. If you have babies and children, babies, you're going to need diapers, towelettes, all of the things that the child is going to need. Batteries, flashlight, some of these things are again, every kit should have just some of those fundamentals. So food, water, shelter, and when I say shelter, that doesn't mean that you necessarily have a tent, but have a place that you can get to that's going to be covered up if possible.
And we just had the Humane Society on. Don't forget you need stuff for your pets.
Exactly.
If they have medication or anything.
So medication, that's a perfect one as well. Pets are part of the family. That's very important. But again, if you can't take care of yourself and you can't take care of your pet, then it's going to be a bad day for everybody. So.
Absolutely.
And I know the kids, let's be honest, we have our children, sometimes they even forget to, put their clothes in the hamper. Sometimes they forget things.
Sometimes.
Sometimes that happens. Who knew? But so I think what's important is not just going over this with the kids, like, hey, we're going to sit down and look at this. It's walk through your plans.
Practice it.
Yeah, if you practice it, they're more likely to remember.
When you talk about how people learn, and if you read something to somebody that, 10% can, but when you start doing all of the steps and put it together, okay, now this is the plan beforehand. We've talked about it. Everybody's on the same page. Now we're going to do the plan together. Now we know what the plan is, but exactly simulating that plan, now it's actually in their brain and they know, okay, wait a second, we talked about this. When that happens, here's exactly where we need to go. And I mean, the emergencies, we could have micro emergencies, a house fire. Okay, you could have macro emergencies where as a city, we've lost power for 3 days. So again, each family needs to have an idea, and that's a great reminder, though, that it doesn't have to be a nationwide emergency to have a huge impact on yourself, and that's the whole point. Don't wait, communicate. It doesn't matter what the emergency is. You can tailor it for yourself, for your family, and all we're asking is to take that time, fill out that paperwork, go over it with your family, and at the end of the day, if something bad happens, you will be so thankful that you did.
Absolutely. And you actually touched on it for a second there, but communication. I mean, we say we do rely on our cell phones and things so much, but what if those aren't available to us for whatever reason? You know, how can we maybe set up a plan to communicate with each other if we're not together?
Well, and if we've lost power for 72 hours, do you have a cell phone that's going to be charged for 72 hours? Right? Probably not. That means that everyone has to know where to go. If you didn't have cash on hand and power's out for 72 hours and you're out of gas, how are you going to get gas? So again, part of that emergency kit, you know, have a little fuel that you can. So there's just all of these little tiny things that on a day-to-day basis we get, for lack of a better term, spoiled, that we always have those readily available. But again, debit cards, if they're not accepted credit cards and you don't have cash, how are you going to pay for something?
Right.
We're not really good at bartering anymore. So, no. I mean, these are things that a part of that emergency kit, have something like that. And if you haven't thought about that beforehand, it's something that would be easily, you know, it'd be an oversight, and then you're going to be out of luck.
Absolutely. So we want to fill out the paperwork, we want to get together with our families, and we want to make our plan.
Right. And some of the, just real quick, some of the other little things, texting is better than calling, okay? And then have an out-of-state contact. Because if bedlam is happening here, and you can see this on a daily basis, something bad happens, your mom was in an accident, 10 people in the family have all called each other. Did you hear what happened? Did you hear what happened? But if somebody else can be that point of contact and filter that information down, it's going to keep it cleaner for everybody. You're going to get accurate information. So that's one other thing you can
so much great advice today, Barrett. Thank you so much.
Always, thanks for having me on.
And for more safety tips from Barrett and his team, you can go to fire.tucsonaz.gov.